All right, everybody, welcome. Thank you very much for joining. I really appreciate it. And I'm really excited for our second innovation harvesting session. So I know some of you may not have attended last time. I'll talk a little about the agenda here in a minute. But first, I want to introduce our special guest. Ben Weinberger is the current Chief Product Officer at Sling TV and the former founder and CEO of Digital Smiths, which has made a big impact on our industry. And I'm really excited that he's joined us today. He's on the East Coast, caught a red-eye flight last night, so he's on a hangout. But he's going to speak to us about innovation for 5 or 10 minutes and just give us his thoughts on that. So I'm going to turn it over to him, and we'll go from there.
Hey guys, thanks for having me today. Sorry I'm not there in person. I just stepped off a red-eye about 45 minutes ago, so hopefully I understand what I'm saying. Nick said we were kind of chatting a little bit about innovation, and he was kind of giving me some ideas of what might be make sense. And as I thought about innovation, it's funny. I was struggling, thinking I'm not sure what I know about innovation, which may sound a little funny or odd, but it's not a topic or a word that you typically think about and think, I want to be an innovator, or I want to be innovative. And I did probably the thing that whenever you get asked to talk about something, you do, and you look up the word and you see what it means. And I looked up the word innovation, and the first definition I thought was pretty funny. It says the action or process of innovating, and thought, well, that's not very helpful. Definition, it says a new product, method, or idea. And it's got all these synonyms. It talks about change, revolution, upheaval, transformation, blah, blah, blah. I think those are all things people know and understand, but it's not something you inherently think about. And what's really interesting is the more I looked around this, and I think it's really unique that a lot of the definition and history of what people have come to define as innovation actually comes from our industry. And I'm not sure how many of you guys are familiar with the professor named Marshall McLuhan, but Marshall McLuhan was a professor, died some years ago, a professor in Toronto, and his focus was always around media and television and sort of the coming age of digital, and he had a lot of names for it. He wrote a book called The Medium is the Message, really famous book about our industry. If you're ever curious, it's a real short read, but his stuff is a little hard to read because he had like no editors, and he doesn't write very well. But the crazy thing is that he is credited with predicting the internet before the internet existed, and he discussed what it was going to be and why it was going to be that. And most people say that he was, not only accurate, but he was 100% dead on. And this was, again, before the internet existed. Nobody had ever talked about the internet. But he came up with this concept, which I kind of wanted to use that as the framework because I think it's really good. And it's been the thing now that everybody adopts. And they say, if you're gonna being innovative, it's a good way to do it. And so there's 4 principles that he came up with. One of them is, he says, innovation has to enhance something. And I'll go through kind of what this is in a second. But innovation has to enhance something. Innovation needs to destroy something old. Innovation returns us to something we feel we've lost. And the final one is innovation over time becomes anti-innovation. Oh, can you still see me okay? Did you change something, Nick?
Yeah, I clicked a bunch just to make sure everybody on the remote broadcast can see you. So I think we're good. We can still see you. Can you still see us okay?
Yeah, I see a big window of me now. So, but I see you guys too. Yeah, let me, there we go. So when you think about those 4 paradigms, so enhancing something, destroying something old, turning us to something we feel we've lost, over time it becomes anti-innovation. It's interesting to think about it. And they give all these examples and different things you can look up and you can read. But I wanted to to first Digital Smiths. Like Nick said, I founded a company called Digital Smiths. So you guys might be familiar with it. Actually, Dish and Echo and Sling use different pieces of it. But it was a search recommendations, personalization, content discovery company. So how do you make the act of finding content better or more personalized? I never thought of the word innovation around it. It wasn't anything that I tried to measure or determine were we doing something innovative. I probably should have. But when I go through it, you know, it's interesting, and I think it's worth comparing to those four categories just as a baseline. So, you know, when you enhance something, I was thinking about search recommendations. You know, our whole goal was to make it easier to find content. You know, you shouldn't have to search and spend hours and hours. And all these studies said that when people turn on their TV, they spend 20 to more than 20 minutes finding what they want before they actually decide on something they want. So I said, well, you know, let's make that better. When we destroy something old, we used to joke and say, you know, you hit that button on your remote control that brings up that grid of what's on at what time, on what channel. So, you know, how awful is that? And, you know, we need to make something better. So we were destroying something old. You know, our idea was that shouldn't be the way you find content. And then returning us to something we feel we've lost. I always think about with TV where we say, TV shouldn't be work. You know, you shouldn't have to feel like you're sitting down and using it like a computer, if you will. You should be entertained. A big piece of what we always sold to operators, and you know, when I used to meet with Vivek and others and say, it's so hard to find stuff in these boxes and these grids and these systems. You know, TV should just be something that entertains you. It should be the simplicity of leaning back and you turn it on, and that's how it used to be. You know, it used to be 4 channels and you didn't have to spend 20 minutes finding something. So, you know, I think we were indirectly, without realizing it, trying to bring you back to something you feel you've lost. And then innovation becomes anti-innovation. This is one where I don't think the industry is at that point yet, but it's getting there quickly. Things like search recommendations, personalization, they're getting to be table stakes. You just have to have them. And it's the way you create a best-in-class video experience. So, you know, I would love for the day to look back and say, and everything has better recommendations and personalization, and it's no longer innovative. It is just the way you do things. So it's anti-innovation at that point. So I think, you know, when I compare it to that, it was really a stress test. Say, I don't know whether we did anything innovative or not. TiVo thought we did. Some operators thought we did, but had never thought of it in those terms. And so I was trying to think, you know, how did we come up with that? You know, why was it something that, you know, back in sort of 98, 99, we said this needs to happen. And, you know, it's a journey. And that's one of the things I wanted to say is, you know, that you don't know whether it's going to work or not. You have no idea. And you test things and you try things, and a lot of things break. And I built a lot of product at Digital Smiths that never went anywhere. And we thought it was a really cool idea. As an example, we had a product, some of you guys may have been involved or seen this stuff in, but we had a product that allowed you to search for anything you could possibly think of. And we used to give sort of fun examples, like you could search for the word cannoli because you remembered that there was a particular Godfather movie where they say, leave the guns, take the cannolis. But you don't remember which one it is. You remember that cannoli was in this quote. And you could type that in and we'd bring you back Godfather, the correct Godfather movie. Or you could search for Tom Cruise dancing and we would bring you back Risky Business, but we'd also bring you back, oh gosh, I can't even think of the movie now. He's Les Grossman, the movie studio person. So we had all these capabilities of being able to search by actions and objects and phrases, and we thought this was so cool. And we totally overlooked the fact that inputting that search into a set-top box was about the most painful thing you could imagine. Now that's changing. You know, now integrating things like Siri and Echo and other technologies, Google Home just got announced. they're going to make input into your TV or into a lot of things completely different, and they're giving tools and innovating and saying, what could you do with this? And I think a lot of innovation comes from things that you hear all the time, like trust your instincts and go with your gut. Don't accept the way it's always been done, or think outside the box. All these phrases that are kind of cliche, but they're true. You guys know it better than anyone. You sit day in and day out, and you're making the best set-top boxes and the best technologies and the best, core foundational products to make the next generation of television. And we miss the forest through the trees sometimes because we're solving a very specific problem. But you're in the catbird seat to be able to say, I see a problem, and I think there's an opportunity here to create something new, which indirectly probably means you're making something better, you're destroying something old, you're probably returning everyone to something they feel they've lost. And that's an interesting one if you think more about it, how it relates to sort of simplifying your life or getting you back to the way it should be, quote unquote. And then over time, that thing that has been created all of a sudden just becomes the standard, and everybody has voice search, as an example. So I think that the piece that so many people just overlook and get lost in is, you're always trying to figure out the next, huge idea or this great win. And really it's very simple, trust your gut and trust your instincts. And, Charlie talks a lot about that. And, you've heard lots of people probably talk about that, but it's so true. And, when something doesn't feel right or something doesn't seem like it's the right way to go, it probably isn't. And there's probably some things that seem so obvious that you don't even realize that it actually is innovation, but it's seeing it through and going down that path of, can I create whatever it is to make the next for television? So kind of coming full circle, again, as I was looking around and trying to think of ways to put this into words, I was surprised and, thought it was really interesting that the guy who apparently has come up with the definitions of innovation and these four categories is the guy, Marshall McLuhan, who's generally credited with completely changing the television industry from a thought process. And I think that's really cool. We work in an industry that is innovative, and the concept of TV is innovative as a whole. And the person who's behind the sort of definition of innovation was squarely in our industry and in the future for where things were going to go. So, I think tying it together or wrapping up, the biggest thing is we all know innovation is something new. And of course, the definition of a new method, idea, or product makes sense, or the concepts of change or alteration, evolution, etc. The biggest thing that I would encourage is just always trust your instincts and always look at, the problems that are out there. You see them more than anyone else does. You see them more than I do. You see opportunities when you're creating a product be beneficial to Sling, or could be beneficial to Dish or some other company that could use the technology. And that's the foundation of it. It's, and then you say, well, yeah, we run into red tape, we're running, people saying no and budgets and all that kind of stuff. That's always going to be the case. No matter where you go, you start your own company, you have a limited amount of resources, and there's never a perfect scenario other than academia. And in academia, you oftentimes don't create anything real other than ideas. So, I think the space we're in is changing so fast, and it's so cool. And the concepts that we did at Digital Smiths with search recommendations, personalization, I hope are becoming table stakes at some point. And I think the things that are being done with the idea of like 16 tuners and including the sports bar mode in set-top box and all the different innovations with voice. Really cool things that are coming together. And I think you have the opportunity to do that, whether it's for the traditional kind of wireline business in a cable world, or the satellite DBS side of things, or an over-the-top side. So much is happening, and we're at an inflection point that sometimes it just takes stepping back and saying, we've got to solve these problems, and let's figure out a new way to do it. So it's a topic that is a little hard to define, but at the same time, there's this concept. Actually, this is kind of what I'll close with. There's this, I think it was a Chief Justice, if I remember correctly, who was opining on what was pornography when it came to video and media and things like that, obscenity stuff. And he said, I don't know, but I'll know it when I see it. And that may be true. Excuse me, but that's not the way innovation works. If you see it, it's already too late. You won't know it when you see it. You need to trust your gut. You need to try things. And when you try things, they just might turn into all four of these categories. And you will be the innovator at that point. And everyone else will say, wow, that was so obvious. I should have gone down that path. Don't look for innovation. Trust what you know to be true, and then move forward with it. So happy to answer any questions if there are any. I know it's probably a little hard being on video, but it's a topic that I love to think about as an entrepreneur, and love to figure out ways to get that more into a large organization.
Questions? Do we have questions for Ben? You can walk up, or you can ask.
Ask if currently in the market industry, what areas where there's a need, like there's no solutions.
The question, Ben, is currently in the industry, where do you think that there's a strong need, but there's not really a solution right now?
It's interesting. I have been pinged by a lot of people, entrepreneurs in the space that I know, who are looking for, where's a good idea. And being on the distributor side of things, I see a whole different set of problems I never used to see. As example, viewer measurement is a massive issue. And, sure, you can stick things inside of a set-top box like Rentrack or Nielsen do, and you can measure what's going on there. But when you get into an OTT world, where you're watching things on your computer, your phone, your Xbox, your Roku, your Apple TV, your PlayStation, whatever it might be, how do you measure all that? And how do you cross-correlate that? There's a major need in the industry for sort of consistent cross-platform viewer measurement. And it's going to become, when you really look at viewer measurement, what viewer measurement is a currency for buying. So there is, said differently, there's a lack of currency for how to buy in an OTT world. People don't understand how to do it. You talk to Adam Lowy and Adam Gaynor in the media sales organization in New York, and it's tough. They're trying to figure out they know how to sell and they're really good at it, but how to do it in a way that fits the OTT space is very complicated. So that's one. I think the other one, just as a quick one, there's a lot of them, by the way, but one other quick one that is bubbling up more and more is local content as a platform, maybe is the right way to say it. Meaning local content comes in and it oftentimes doesn't have SCUDdy markers as like a kind of boring tactical problem. So in the OTT world, without a SCUDdy marker, we don't know where to put an ad. Local content comes in, rights manage the content from a geo perspective, or the Raleigh-Durham local or the New York local. And where's a platform that says, I can inject all the content in, I know how to kind of mark it up, I know the metadata that's associated, I know the rights that are associated. Locals as a whole is going to become a massive issue, and that includes like our regional sports networks, that kind of content that needs to be highly geographically focused. It is incredibly complicated in an OTT world, much more so than I think anybody realized it was going to be.
Awesome. Thanks for fielding that. Good question, Abhijit. Other questions for Ben? Good question. And how do you see the future of virtual reality at either Sling TV or our industry, or both?
Yeah, that's like the multi-billion-dollar thing right now. Last week I was at INTX in Boston, the renamed cable show conference, and that was definitely the big item there. I sat in 2 different demos. There was probably easily 20 on the floor. One demo was, I think, by Discovery, and it was this roller coaster demo where you sat in a chair and it kind of made you feel like you're on a roller coaster. They blew and smells of popcorn, like you're at an amusement park, and smells of cotton candy. And when I got off I was about to say when I got off the ride, when it was over and I took the goggles off, I literally thought I might throw up. It was it was really real. Having said that, I think that it's more than a fad. It's not 3D TV. It is legit. I think it's going to become most useful in education, medical, like healthcare kind of stuff. And this probably sounds a little bit odd or awkward, but in our industry, the innovations have almost always, 100% of the time, come from the adult business. So I don't know what that means for virtual reality, but when you look at the DVD business, the VHS business, the high definition business, I mean, all of them were led by the adult industry. They're very sophisticated marketing engines. So I don't know what it means, but clearly we're going to see virtual reality inside of video. And that's a big one for innovation as a topic. How does it apply? What does it mean? How does it solve a problem or destroy an old one and take us back to, a time when it, reminds us of something old? Like, one example there is, which I actually think is pretty cool. I did one demo where 2 of us sat with the goggles on, and I could see the person that I was sitting next to. And I don't know how they did that. I didn't look at what the technology was, but it made us, put us in a different world, quote unquote. But we were like sitting down watching TV together. And if you do that remotely, that could be pretty neat. Like, you could sit and watch TV with your mom, and she lives 10 states over, or your grandparents or your brother, and watch a basketball game together. So I don't know where it's going to go, but it's definitely going to create some amount of opportunity in the space.
Okay. Other questions for Ben? So Ben, you have now actively participated in innovation harvesting. So what we do after this is we capture ideas, put them on the walls, we form teams, we think of ways that we can actually build a prototype for some of this stuff for next week's Innovation Day. So I captured multiple things you just suggested, so thank you for that.
Well, good luck. I'm always happy to talk to anybody. I love thinking about new ideas and entrepreneurial activities, and clearly what's going on in the transformation inside of the Dish Echo ecosystem, I think embodies that. And you may not think that or realize that every day, but I truly believe it does.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks for that. I know your schedule is crazy, and we really appreciate you taking time. Have a good rest of your day.
Guys. Good luck. Take care.
Thank you. All right. So one thing I want to say, I want to get a shout out to somebody, Abhijit. who actually prompted me to reach out to Ben Weinberger. So he came to my office one day and said, hey, you know, there's this guy, Ben Weinberger, and he's a chief product officer at Sling TV. We should ask him to speak at Innovation Harvesting. You can imagine the look I gave out of you. Kevin J. Grin saying, we might as well ask President Obama to come and speak at Innovation Harvesting. And then one day, just about a week later, I thought, what the heck, why not? Why not? He's a guy just like you and I. So I just sent him an email and a message on LinkedIn. 8 hours later, he's like, yeah, I'd love to. Let's do it. So the message, well, first of all, the message is thanks, Evan, for thinking outside the box, even in terms of speakers. But for everybody in the audience, a challenge. Who can think of the craziest, most awesome speaker for next Innovation Harvesting?